It wasn't a slap you could hear, it was a sound that seemed to stop the air itself dead. And in the stunned quiet of that courtroom, no one could believe that a police officer had just struck a member of parliament in the face. But what happened next would shock them even more. The air in courtroom 3 of the Royal Courts of Justice was thick with a familiar staleness, polished wood, dusty law books, and the quiet dread of impending verdicts. On a gray Tuesday morning, that tension was about to snap. Observing from the public gallery was Eleanor Vance, the MP for Mid-Cheshire. She was there not as a defendant or a witness, but as a promise. A constituent's family, wronged by what they claimed was police neglect, had asked her to bear witness. Eleanor, 44, with a gaze that could silence a room, carried a reputation for unyielding principle. She sat perfectly upright, a notebook open on her lap. Patrolling the perimeter like a caged predator was Sergeant Malcolm Mac Doyle. A veteran with a frame built for intimidation, Doyle was a relic of a different era. His personnel file was a catalog of complaints that somehow never stuck. The brass saw a results-driven enforcer, the community saw a bully in uniform. The fracture point came during a brief recess. As Eleanor stood to exit the gallery, Doyle moved not to assist but to block her path. "The gallery is closed," he stated, not bothering to mask his contempt. "I am a member of Parliament, Sergeant," Eleanor replied, her voice cool. "The recess permits movement." "Not on my watch," Doyle grunted, stepping closer. His presence was oppressive. "In here, my word is the only law that matters." "I need to make a call," Eleanor said, attempting to step around him. Doyle's hand shot out, his fingers digging into her forearm. The contact was violent, purposeful. "You don't walk away from me." Eleanor wrenched her arm back, her voice rising to carry. "Remove your hand now," he laughed, a low, mocking rumble. "Or what? You'll write me a strongly worded letter." What happened next was so swift, so audacious, it defied belief. Fueled by rage and a sense of absolute impunity, Doyle's open palm strike connected with Eleanor's cheek. The crack echoed off the marble walls. Shocked jurors, a clerk's hand flying to her mouth. A unified gasp drained the room of oxygen. Doyle stood there, chest puffed, waiting for the collapse. But Eleanor Vance did not crumble. She slowly turned her head back to face him. A fierce red bloomed on her skin, but her eyes held no fear. They were cold, focused, analytical. What Doyle didn't know, what wasn't in his dismissive assessment of her, was that before politics, Eleanor Vance had spent years mastering Brazilian jiu-jitsu, not for sport, but for survival in a world that often showed women no mercy. When Doyle moved to grab her again, he never saw the counter coming. Eleanor didn't swing. She pivoted from her core, her entire body a coiled spring, and delivered a short, devastating uppercut. The impact was a sickening, wet thud. Doyle's eyes lost focus instantly. He didn't stumble, he dropped like a sack of stones, collapsing onto the hard floor with a final, heavy thump. Out cold, Eleanor stood over him, adjusted her suit jacket, and addressed the frozen room. "It appears," she said, her voice ringing with steely calm, "the court will require a longer recess." The chaos was immediate and brutal. "Officers, restrain her," the judge roared. 3 other policemen swarmed Eleanor, slamming her against a table, wrenching her arms behind her back to be cuffed. "I am not resisting," she shouted, her face pressed against the wood. "He assaulted me. This was self-defense." "Save it for the judge, MP," an officer hissed, tightening the cuffs. Within the hour, Eleanor was in a stark holding cell, her possessions and her version of events confiscated. Meanwhile, the machinery of power whirred to life.